Okay, let's unpack this feeling. You know, at that moment when you're looking at what feels like just an endless stream of bills.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, Sarah staring at that pile on the table. Credit card statements, student loan notices, the car payment reminder that just lands like a punch every month, that heavy weight of debt.
It's a story so many of us get. It's really common.
It really is. And that's precisely what we're diving deep into today. We're not just acknowledging the problem. We're going to map out some real actionable routes through that financial wilderness.
And what's interesting is when you're in that spot, the desire for a way out, any way out, can feel just as overwhelming as the debt itself,
Absolutely.
And that's where having a strategy, a real plan comes into play. Today, we're zeroing in on two of the most well-established and talked about paths, the Debt Snowball and the Debt Avalanche.
Okay.
Think of them as like tried and true navigation tools. Each has its own directions, its own principles to guide you out.
Exactly. And the destination being completely debt-free, that's the same goal, right? But the journey, wow, it can be dramatically different depending on which map, which tool you pick.
Yeah, it really can.
This isn't just about like running the numbers. It's a really personal decision. It impacts how motivated you feel, your stress levels, and honestly, whether you can stick with it till the end.
Which brings up a really key question for you listening. What kind of path are you most likely to stay on? Our goal today is to really dig into the core of both the snowball and the avalanche.
Yeah.
Look at the math, sure, but also those critical psychological bits that make them work or not work for different people.
So by the end, you should have a much better sense of which method fits your journey to getting debt-free.
That's the plan.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of these strategies, maybe let's step back. Let's get a feel for the landscape we're actually navigating here.
Good idea.
Yeah. Debt, in all its forms, it's become almost normal, default setting maybe. In today's financial world, it's not just abstract news headlines. It's daily life for so many.
And if you think bigger picture, the whole economy seems kind of structured around credit now, doesn't it?
It really does.
Those credit card offers you get practically the day you turn 18, student loans feeling almost essential for college, mortgages, car loans. Borrowing is just deeply baked into the system. And it's not just the big stuff. Personal loans, unexpected medical bills that drag on forever.
Right.
Even those buy now, pay later things for small stuff. They add up faster than you think.
And there's been a real cultural shift, too, hasn't there? Maybe our parents or grandparents really focused on saving up first.
Right.
But now, there's this pull for instant gratification, often fueled by that easy credit.
Yeah, and then you throw in big economic events, like recessions forcing people onto credit cards just to get by, or high inflation making existing debt payments harder, maybe even pushing people to borrow more.
It all adds up.
And the thing is, there's this invisible weight that comes with all this debt. It's way more than just the numbers.
Oh, definitely.
The psychological burden is huge. We're talking constant stress, anxiety, worrying about the next payment, dreading calls.
Yeah, that pit in your stomach.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, there's shame too, guilt. Feeling like a failure, so maybe you hide it, don't ask for help. And that financial strain, it spills over into relationships, causing fights. It can just crush your sense of hope, your well-being, like you're stuck.
And it's that emotional weight, that stress, that makes picking the right repayment strategy so important.
Yes.
It's not just about getting rid of the numbers. It's finding a way to do it that you can actually live with,
Yeah. It's
a method that doesn't just add more overwhelm.
Exactly. And while people have always tried to manage money, these specific strategies like Snowball and Avalanche, they're relatively new, really taking off in the last few decades.
Right, as debt levels climbed.
Yeah, as personal debt grew, the need for actual structured plans became clearer. Something more concrete than just, spend less, save more.
Which is good advice, but maybe not enough on its own.
Right. People like Dave Ramsey really popularized the snowball specifically because it hit those those emotional notes.
Okay.
The avalanche then emerged as the sort of logical, mathematically sound alternative for people focused purely on efficiency. Understanding that context helps see why this choice matters.
Okay, so let's dig into strategy number 1. The debt snowball. I like the name, the image. Tiny snowball, top of the hill.
It's a picture.
Starts rolling, picks up snow, gets bigger, faster, becomes this unstoppable force. That's
Yeah.
the core idea.
That's exactly it. The debt snowball method is all about tackling your debts, paying them off in order from the smallest balance to the largest balance.
Smallest balance first. Got it.
And the key thing, the really defining thing, is that this order is based only on the balance. It ignores the interest rates completely, at least for the ordering part.
Okay, so purely balance focused. How do you actually get it rolling? What are the steps?
Okay, step 1, clarity. You need a list of all your debts. Everything except your mortgage, usually. List the balance, the minimum payment, and interest rate, the APR, the annual cost of borrowing. You need that info, but the APR isn't for ordering here.
Right.
Step 2, order that list. Smallest balance at the top, biggest at the bottom. Simple.
Okay.
Step 3, the attack plan. Keep paying the minimum on every debt.
Yeah.
Except the one at the top, the smallest one. That's your target.
Focus fire.
Exactly. You take every single extra penny you can scrape together in your budget and you throw it at that smallest debt. Annihilate it as fast as possible.
Got it. Hammer that smallest one, then what? Once it's gone, poof.
That's where the magic, the momentum really kicks in. Once that smallest debt is paid off, and definitely pause, celebrate that win, you take the entire amount you were paying on it.
The minimum plus the extra.
Yes, the whole chunk. And you add it to the minimum payment of the next smallest debt on your list. So suddenly, you're hitting that second debt with a much bigger payment.
The snowball's getting bigger.
Precisely. And you just keep repeating that. Every time a debt is cleared, you roll that full payment amount over to the next smallest one remaining.
Okay.
Your payment attacking the current target gets bigger and bigger, knocking out debts faster and faster. That snowball rolling downhill.
Yeah.
The power is in the simplicity and really that motivating feeling of ticking debts off the list.
And that early win, that's the psychology piece, right? It's not about being the absolute most efficient on paper.
Not primarily, no.
It's about how our brains work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The snowball's main strength is behavioral. Humans, we respond to positive reinforcement.
Yeah, we like winning.
Totally. So paying off those smaller debts fast gives you a tangible win, a real emotional boost. It's proof. Proof you can actually do this, especially if you've felt buried by debt for ages.
Builds momentum.
Exactly. Each debt gone is another victory lap. It reinforces good habits, makes it psychologically easier to stick with it long term. Plus, the rules are just so simple. Smallest to largest, less overwhelm when you're already stressed. It's about action, not complex analysis.
You mentioned Sarah earlier, staring at her bills. How did the snowball play out for her?
Right, Sarah. She had that $800 store card, brutal 24.99% interest, then a $4,500 personal loan at 12%, and a $22,000 student loan at 6.8%. She felt like she was just, spinning her wheels.
Yeah, just making minimums, going nowhere.
Exactly. A friend suggested the snowball. Sarah was hesitant, about ignoring that super high rate on the store card.
Understandable.
But she was also desperate for any sign of progress, so she listed them by balance, store card, personal loan, student loan, found an extra $150 a month.
Yeah.
She threw that $150 plus the $35 minimum, all at the store card, total $185 a month. And boom, in just over 4 months, it was gone, paid off.
Wow, that must have felt amazing, like a huge weight lifted.
She said the relief was just huge. Holding that zero balance statement felt like a massive win. And that's key. It wasn't just the $800. It was tangible proof she could set a goal and hit it.
Yeah, the power of accomplishment.
Totally. Then that whole $185 she'd been paying, it snowballed over to the personal loan. Suddenly, she's throwing $335 a month at that one. She actually said the process became kind of addictive.
Huh. Addicted to paying off debt. I like it.
Right. Each payment felt bigger, more meaningful. That first win fueled her to find even more ways to save. She knew she might pay a bit more interest overall, but the motivation, the consistency the snowball gave her, she called it priceless.
Okay, so let's recap the big pros of the snowball then.
Okay, pros. High motivation from early wins. Super simple to understand and implement. Helps build positive financial habits. Reduces the number of bills, number of creditors pretty quickly. And there's a big community around it, like the Dave Ramsey followers, offering support.
Makes sense. But what about the downsides, the cons?
The biggest one, the one everyone points to, is that it's mathematically inefficient.
Right, ignoring interest rates.
Exactly. You could end up paying significantly more total interest over time compared to focusing on high rates first. If you have a really big debt with a nasty high rate, but it's not your smallest, that interest just keeps piling up while you're paying off smaller, maybe low-interest debts.
So it could cost more in the long run.
Potentially, yes. And it might also take a bit longer overall to be completely debt-free compared to an interest-focused plan. It doesn't always appeal to the purely analytical types focused only on optimization. And there's maybe a challenge with that last biggest debt. The initial motivational buzz might wear off by then.
Okay. So who is this snowball method really best for then?
It really shines for people who need those quick wins to stay motivated, especially if you've tried and failed before.
Right, if you get discouraged easily.
Yeah. Or if you're new to budgeting, managing money seriously, if you have a bunch of small, annoying debts cluttering things up, and anyone who prioritizes behavioral change and values that emotional journey, seeing progress.
And you mentioned a study.
Yeah, that Kellogg School of Management study was interesting. It found people using the snowball were actually more likely to eliminate all their debt. Really highlights how powerful that motivation boost can be.
Wow. So the less efficient way might actually be more effective for some people because they actually stick with it.
Exactly. It's a great reminder that personal finance isn't just spreadsheets. It's deeply tied to our psychology, our behavior.
Fascinating. All right, let's flip the coin. The other big strategy. The debt avalanche. If snowball is the fun roll down the hill, what's the avalanche?
Okay, if snowball is the fun roll, avalanche is more like a calculated climb up a mountain.
Okay, sounds tougher maybe.
It's less about the immediate thrill, more about the long-term reward of peak efficiency. Think of a climber meticulously planning the most direct, resource-saving route to the summit.
So instead of balance, avalanche focuses on interest rates.
Bingo. The debt avalanche method focuses entirely on paying off debts, starting with the highest interest rate, the highest APR first. Then you work your way down to the next highest, and so on. The actual balance of the debt doesn't matter for the order. It's all about the interest rate.
And the goal here is?
The primary goal is to minimize the total interest you pay over the life of the loans. That usually saves you the most money and often gets you debt-free faster from a pure math standpoint.
Okay, walk us through the avalanche steps. Similar start.
Similar start, yes.
Yeah.
Step 1, list all your non-mortgage debts. Balance, minimum payment, and crucially, the exact APR for each one.
Gotta know those rates.
Absolutely critical here. Step 2, order the list, but this time purely by APR. Highest APR at the top, lowest at the bottom. That's the key difference.
Highest interest rate gets top billing.
Right. Step 3, minimum payments on everything except the debt at the top of your list, the one with the highest APR. That's your target now.
Right.
Take all your extra money, every spare dollar, and throw it at that highest interest debt. Pay it down as fast as you can.
Makes sense. Attack the most expensive debt first.
Precisely. Once that highest interest debt is gone, take its entire payment minimum, plus all the extra and avalanche it down onto the debt with the next highest interest rate.
Okay, same rollover concept, just different ordering principle.
Exactly the same rollover mechanic. You just repeat that process, pay off a debt, roll the payment to the next highest APR debt until they're all gone.
So the focus is purely logical, numbers-driven. Attack the thing costing you the most.
That's the heart of it. The avalanche's power is its direct assault on interest, the cost of borrowing. Higher rates mean you pay more for the loan.
Right.
By hitting those highest APRs first, you cut down how much interest piles up over time. That can mean serious savings. And because less money goes to interest, more of your payment hits the principal, the actual amount you borrowed.
Which should mean faster payoff overall.
Often, yes. Assuming the same extra payment amount each month, the avalanche is typically faster overall. It really appeals to people motivated by logic, efficiency, long-term savings.
You had the story about Mark the engineer. How did the avalanche work for him?
Right, Mark. He had, let's see, $15 K on a credit card at a painful 19.9% APR, a $30 K student loan at 6.5%, and a $10 K car loan at 3.9%.
Okay, that credit card rate is high.
Very. When he heard about the snowball, his engineer brain just couldn't ignore that 19.9%. The avalanche logic just clicked for him.
Made more sense to him.
Yeah. He found an extra $400 a month, listed his debts by rate. Credit card first, then student loan, then car loan.
And he went straight for the credit card, even though it wasn't the smallest.
That's right. Minimums on the other two. All the extra cash is $400 plus the $300 minimum went straight to that 19.9% card.
Okay.
Now, he admitted it felt like a slog at first. Took him about 25 months, over 2 years to kill that credit card. No quick win there.
Yeah, that takes patience.
It does. But his motivation, He tracked the interest he was saving each month by hitting that high rate. The data, the numbers, that's what kept him going.
Okay, data-driven motivation.
Exactly. Once the card was gone, that big $700 a month payment avalanched onto the student loan. Then things started moving much faster on that bigger balance.
Right, the payment size makes a difference then.
For sure. In the end, Mark calculated he saved thousands in interest and got debt-free about 6 months sooner than if he'd used the snowball. For him, the financial gain, the efficiency, that was the win.
So Avalanche isn't about the immediate feel-good buzz. It's about that long-term financial victory lap. Saving money.
That's a good way to put it. The clear pros of Avalanche. Saves the most money on interest, typically gets you debt-free, fastest overall. It's the financially optimal strategy on paper. Strong appeal if you're analytical, disciplined, hate paying interest. And you tackle the most expensive debt first, which can relieve a specific kind of stress.
What about the potential challenges? The cons of the Avalanche?
The main one is that lack of early motivational wins. If your highest rate debt is also your biggest balance, it could take a long, long time to pay off that first debt.
Yeah, years maybe?
Could be. And seeing no debts actually disappear for a long stretch, that can be really discouraging for some people. Might make them give up.
Fall off the wagon.
Exactly. It definitely requires more discipline, more patience. You have to stay focused on the long-term savings, not the immediate gratification. And it can feel weird, maybe, ignoring small, annoying debts if they have low interest rates.
So who is the Avalanche generally best suited for?
It tends to work best for people really motivated by saving money, people with strong discipline and patience. If the thought of paying extra interest truly bothers you, Avalanche makes sense.
If you're wired that way.
Yeah. You need to be comfortable with numbers, planning, and not easily discouraged by slow initial progress in terms of number of debts gone. And if you have really high interest debt compared to your other, much stronger.
Okay, so we've got the snowball psychological wins, momentum, and the Avalanche mathematical efficiency, saving money. Feels like we need a head-to-head comparison now. How do you really stack them up to help someone choose?
Right, the grand showdown. We can break it down by key factors. Snowball orders by balance, its advantage is motivation. Avalanche orders by APR, its advantage is interest savings. Snowball usually pays off the first debt faster. Avalanche usually results in lower total interest paid and often a faster overall payoff time.
Makes sense.
Psychologically, Snowball gives that early feel-good win. Avalanche relies on the satisfaction of long-term optimization. Discipline-wise, Snowball might need less upfront because of the quick wins. Avalanche demands more patience.
Right.
So Snowball often fits those needing the kickstart, maybe newer to this, driven by behavior. Avalanche fits the numbers people, the discipline optimizers.
That's a super helpful breakdown.
Yeah.
Now let's make it concrete. The Anderson family example you mentioned. Remind us of their situation.
Yeah, the Andersons, 4 debts, not counting the mortgage, found an extra $500 a month for debt payments.
Okay.
Their debts were a $2,500 store card at a high 22.9% APR, an $8,000 personal loan at 11.5%, a $28,000 student loan at 5.8%, and a $14,000 car loan at 4.2%. Total debt, $52,500. Minimum payments were $950. With the extra $500, they had $4,450 total to throw at debt each month.
Okay, decent chunk of change. What happens if they go snowball?
Snowball means order by balance, smallest first. So, $2,500 card, then $8K personal loan, then $14K car loan, finally the big $28K student loan.
Right.
They focus all the extra $500 on that $2,500 card first, paying minimums elsewhere. They knock out that card in about 5 months. Quick win. Motivation boost.
Nice start.
Then that payment snowballs to the personal loan and so on. If they stick with the snowball, calculations show it takes them about 50 months, 4 years, 2 months to be debt-free. And they pay roughly $9,850 in total interest.
Okay, 50 months, about $9,850 interest. Now, what if the Andersons chose the Avalanche instead?
Avalanche means order by interest rate, highest first. So
Right.
the 22.9% credit card, then the 11.5% personal loan, then the 5.8% student loan, and finally the 4.2% car loan.
So student loan before car loan, even though the car loan balance is smaller.
Exactly, because the student loan rate, 5.8%, is higher than the car loan rate, 4.2%. Now, interestingly, for the Andersons, their smallest debt, the $2,500 card, also had the highest rate.
Oh, okay, so the first target is the same either way for them.
Yes, that happens sometimes. So they'd still pay off that card in about 5 months, same initial win. The difference comes after that.
Right.
With Avalanche, the payment then goes to the personal loan, next highest rate, then the student loan, then the car loan. Following the avalanche, calculations show they'd be debt-free in about 48 months, 4 years exactly, and pay total interest of around $8,900.
Okay, so for the Andersons specifically, Avalanche is 2 months faster and saves almost $1,000 in interest. $950 difference.
Exactly. About 2 months quicker saves nearly $1,000. For some, that's enough to say Avalanche is clearly better. But like we said, if their highest rate debt had been that huge student loan instead, it might have taken years to pay off that first debt with Avalanche. The Snowball's early win might have been crucial for them to stay motivated.
It really drives home that there's no single best answer for everyone. What do the experts, the financial pros, generally say about this choice?
Well, like that Kellogg study showed, there's academic backing for the Snowball's motivational power people are more likely to finish.
Right. Completion rate matters.
But many financial planners, especially those focused purely on the math, tend to lean towards Avalanche. They argue that with the right tools, mindset, tracking the interest saved is motivating.
Okay.
Some even call the extra interest paid with Snowball a motivation tax you choose to pay.
Huh. Interesting framing.
But ultimately, the most common advice from almost everyone is, the better method is the one you will actually stick with consistently all the way to the end.
That really puts the ball back in the listener's court. You need some self-reflection.
Absolutely. Got to ask yourself honestly, how easily do I get discouraged if results aren't immediate? Am I more motivated by feelings of progress or by data and logic? What's my track record with long-term goals? And critically, how high are my interest rates? Really crippling rates might push you towards Avalanche regardless.
You also mentioned hybrid approaches, not strictly one or the other?
Yeah, totally. Some people blend them. Like maybe you do a modified approach, pay off 1 or 2 tiny nuisance debts, first quick snowball win, then switch to Avalanche for the bigger, higher interest stuff.
Best of both worlds, maybe?
Could be. Or maybe you prioritize an emotional debt, like that loan from Uncle Joe that stresses you out, even if it's not next in line by either method's rules.
Right. Dealing with the biggest pain point first.
Exactly. And using windfalls tax refunds, bonuses strategically is huge. Wipe out a small debt for a snowball boost, or take a big chunk out of your highest interest debt for an avalanche acceleration.
And regardless of snowball, avalanche, or hybrid, there are some basics everyone needs, right?
Right.
Foundational stuff.
Oh, absolutely crucial. You need a realistic budget, period. Got to find that extra money consistently.
Can't snowball or avalanche without ammo.
Right. And you have to stop adding new debt while you're paying off old debt. Sounds obvious, but critical.
Yeah, stop digging the hole deeper.
Exactly. Having even a small emergency fund is vital, too. Prevents a small, unexpected expense from derailing your whole plan.
Good point.
Track your progress. Whether it's debts killed, snowball, or interest saved, avalanche, seeing progress keeps you going. And above all, consistency. It's a marathon, usually, not a sprint. Stick with it.
Thankfully, there are tools now to help with all this tracking and planning.
Definitely. Loads of free online debt payoff calculators. Plug in your numbers. See snowball versus avalanche scenarios. Budgeting apps are everywhere, helping you track spending, find savings. Even a simple spreadsheet works wonders for listing debts, tracking payments, seeing progress.
And professional help.
Yeah. Nonprofit credit counseling agencies can be great if you're really overwhelmed. And online communities. Forums dedicated to debt freedom. Huge source of support, encouragement, shared tips.
Okay, so it really comes down to know your debts, know yourself, pick a strategy you can commit to. But even with a plan, roadblocks happen, right? Challenges.
That's a really important reality check. Neither method is magic. They don't fix the reason you got into debt.
Good point. Underlying issues.
Yeah, if it's overspending or not enough income, those need tackling too for long-term change. And both methods rely on having some extra income to throw at debt, which is tough if you're paycheck to paycheck.
Sure.
And life happens, right? Job loss, medical crisis, car breaks down. These things can knock you off course. Staying motivated long-term, finding that grit, is key to avoid burnout.
You mentioned the behavioral versus math debate. Are there risks in picking the wrong one for you?
Yeah, there are. With Avalanche, the risk is getting discouraged by slow progress on a big, high-interest first debt. You feel stuck, you quit, you end up worse off than if you'd gotten Snowball's early wins.
Okay.
With Snowball, the risk is paying way more interest if you ignore a really high-rate debt for too long while paying off tiny low-rate ones. Costs you more money, maybe takes longer overall.
So it's a trade-off, mathematical perfection versus psychological sustainability.
Exactly. You're trying to find the balance that works best for you to actually cross the finish line.
So besides just snowball or avalanche, are there other levers people can pull? other strategies to consider alongside these?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Debt consolidation is a big one.
Yeah.
Using things like balance transfer cards with 0% intro APRs.
Right, to kill high-interest card debt quickly.
Exactly. Or taking out a lower interest debt consolidation loan to combine everything into one payment. Big caveat, though.
Yeah.
You cannot run those cards back up.
Crucial point. Discipline again.
Always. Also, don't underestimate negotiating with creditors directly. Sometimes you can get a lower rate, especially if you show commitment or hardship. Worth asking.
Doesn't hurt to try.
Nope. And finding ways to boost income side hustle, selling stuff that dramatically speeds things up no matter the method. Plus, serious expense reduction, bigger lifestyle changes can free up huge chunks of cash for debt.
And creative combos.
Yeah, some people do things like a debt tsunami, just intense, focused attack on one debt with every spare cent from everywhere until it's gone. Lots of ways to tailor the approach.
It sounds like it's about building a whole strategy, adapting it.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking mid-2025. What are some recent trends in debt management people should know about?
Well, the fintech revolution keeps rolling. Lots of AI-powered tools now analyzing your whole picture, giving personalized recommendations, Snowball, Avalanche, maybe even consolidation advice.
Getting smarter.
Yeah, and apps automating extra payments based on your spending, using gamification points, badges to boost motivation, trying to digitize those snowball wins, basically.
Interesting.
We're also seeing more behavioral finance as a service, apps with nudges, reminders, cool visual progress trackers, community features for support.
Using psychology intentionally.
Right. And the economy matters, interest rate changes, inflation that affects which strategy feels more urgent or saves more. Plus, there's just a bigger focus overall on financial wellness, literacy, more employer programs, online resources. That whole hashtag debt-free community thing online is huge.
And the human element.
Check.
Still there.
Yeah, seeing hybrid models too, robo-advisors combined with access to actual human coaches for personalized help, blending tech and touch.
So the tools are evolving, but the core choice, the core principles, they still hold.
Absolutely. The tech gets fancier, but it still comes down to understand your debt, understand yourself, and choose a path, psychological momentum, or mathematical efficiency that you can stick with.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, what's the single most important takeaway for listeners?
The most crucial thing. The journey out of debt feels tough, maybe overwhelming, but it is absolutely achievable. We've looked at two powerful maps: Snowball, using those early wins for momentum,
Right.
and Avalanche, prioritizing math to save the most interest.
And the bottom line is,
The real winner isn't the method itself. It's you committing to the plan that fits your personality, your habits, and seeing it through until you're debt-free. That's the win.
and it's about more than just money, isn't it?
Oh, so much more. It's about peace of mind, less stress, opening up future opportunities, getting control back.
So for listeners ready to take action now, first step.
First step, today if possible, sit down, make that comprehensive list. Every debt, balance, ACR, minimum payment, get it all down.
Beast the numbers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then some honest reflection. What truly motivates you? Which path, Snowball or Avalanche, feels like it resonates more with how you operate, your situation, your goals?
And if people want to keep exploring this after listening,
Some great questions to ponder. How can I get the most accurate debt info, especially those tricky APRs? What are some real practical ways I can find extra money or earn more? And how can I plan now for potential bumps in the road, those financial emergencies, so they don't derail me?
good things to think about.
And remember, resources are out there. Calculators, apps, communities, counselors. You don't have to do it alone.
Excellent. Here's to taking that first crucial step towards a debt-free future. Thanks for this deep dive today.